Hi, everyone. My name is Jared Bastow, and you're here for the Money Mastery webinar. This is an opportunity to learn how to manage your income, your budgets, your expenses as a freelancer. A little bit of background about me. I am a bassist within a 5-state radius. I'm also an educator, and currently I'm serving as a freelance musician coach that I coined for myself for my business, Opus Freelance Music Coaching. If you're out there, feel free to think to yourselves, what does your income typically look like, and is it different from month to month? Ask yourself if you have an on season like I do, where it's usually from September to May, constant gig work, constant school lessons, private lessons, as well as people wanting to receive coaching services? Or is there a famine season where there's this lull where the orchestra season's not operating, students are typically on vacation, people typically don't have the necessary income to receive coaching services? Ask yourself what that 365-day calendar looks like. And so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my PowerPoint. So what I'm going to cover today, you're going to walk away hopefully with a clear and realistic tool set to start taking control of your freelance income. Whether you're just getting started or you're 15 years in the game, these tools work because they're flexible like your career. We're going to cover why money management feels harder as a freelancer, building a flexible budget, saving without stress, managing cash flow, tracking tools and automation, as well as some bonus resources available. So now if you were to think to yourself on the other side, which one of these topics do you avoid the most? That's the one that probably is costing you the most, possibly. For me, when I was really trying to figure out my finances, I didn't even question that money management was just harder as a freelancer. But the biggest aspect of it all that I had the biggest struggles with was tracking tools and automation, as well as building a flexible budget. For me, when I tracked tools, it suddenly became more overwhelming, whereas now I get the sense of, okay, things just work as they go, and I just have to budget for it accordingly, both time and energy. But specifically when building a flexible budget, I never even considered it when I accepted work. Like to and from the gig was a considerable expense, not necessarily on a monetary level, but a time and energy level. The food that I would be buying for myself at the gig, or the gas station stops I would have to make along the way. So asking yourself, what am I budgeting for, even at the service or the concert or the school opportunity, are things that were never really a consideration. Why freelancers struggle with money. So you're not doing money wrong. It's that you're operating in a system that was designed for a regular paycheck. That's what society expects of us. And so it's not necessarily in our world to be thinking of a consistent income or consistent expenses. And not to mention, we are our own business, whereas many people who work a 9 to 5 have somebody they report to because they're part of likely some institution or corporation. We are our own entities, so therefore, in a sense, we have an advantage of controlling what we do and what we don't want to do in a financial way as well. And freelancers aren't bad with money, I would say. We're just working with complexities that most people just don't understand. So again, it revolves around having inconsistent income. It revolves around multiple income sources, as well as what I talked about earlier with a feast or famine cycle. So budgeting when your paychecks vary. You don't build your budget on your best month. You build it around the worst average month. Then you break down your expenses. You have to think about your fixed expenses and your flex expenses. So your fixed expenses would be things like rent, car payments, subscriptions, utilities, things that you know you're going to have to deal with and are usually at a ballpark the same amount each time. And the flex expenses are the things that are constantly shifting. So say for instance, food, gas, gear for your instruments, or stuff that changes over time. So again, you want to base things off of your lowest average month, as well as using flex and fixed categories for expenses, as well as building a monthly minimum to cover. So I've actually built a little example. So when you budget for your paychecks, when they vary, you want to again use the lowest average month method. So you base it on your lowest average month. So for me, if I'm calculating my income, say for kicks and giggles, these are not actual numbers that I would refer to, but they are nonetheless just things to consider along the way. Say I have private teaching and I have a low enrollment for the summer, I make $1,800 for that month. I have very off-season gigs that really generate income of about $1,500. Say I do some educational workshops for $500, as well as getting passive income work. Say I were to publish my ebooks soon, makes only $350 for the month. So the lowest monthly income total turns out to be $4,150. Now, if I were to separate my fixed and my flex expenses, say my rent is $1,700 per month, car payments about $680, phone bills about $85, health insurance is $295, subscriptions, which are non-negotiable subscriptions, so things like putting money aside for investments, for instance. I have $50 that would go to a certain investment every month, or my retirement account, for instance. I want to retire at some point. The non-negotiable for that is $150. My union dues are $75, and so that brings my fixed total of $29.85. Flex expenses, those that are adjustable or seasonal, so groceries, $475 a month, gas, travel, because I traveled everywhere, is about $500 a month. Eating out, it happens on occasion, $200. Gear and repairs, $210. Professional services, $550. Subscriptions that I can easily cancel at any point, I want to cut back to $92. I usually wouldn't spend this much on a lowest month because obviously things will scale back, but it could happen at any time. So now I build my monthly minimum to cover. So what does this look like? I have my fixed essentials as well as my flex essentials that I can scale back. So again, the fixed does not change, the flex does. So say I wanted to cut back on groceries, my gas, and limiting my eating out, my subscriptions, and then I suddenly have a fixed monthly flex of about $850. The total monthly flex, if I were to calculate it out, would be about $38.35 if I were to really put it out there for the whole summer. For that 1 month. And so one of the things I really want to stress is that you want to buffer about 15% more of the minimum monthly total, just because you never know what's going to happen. And as a result, that gives you a minimum monthly target of about $4,400. And based off of the minimum income, it kind of checks out for the most part, because we have about, here it is, $4,150. We could always scale back even more if we wanted to, cutting back on groceries. You're likely not traveling, so again, gas could go down even more. Things to consider as you're working through your lowest average monthly income and expenses. And so now let's keep going. So tracking your money without losing your mind. You want to think first, the first lie we believe is that we have to be rich in order to save, and that is simply just not true. You could start with $5 a week you can put aside toward some sort of an investment or some sort of a savings. And that would accrue interest over time, whether it's stock or whether it's through a savings account through a bank. Then you want to automate any income that you have by percentage. If you want to bring $400 this week, then you put about $100 away to savings. So you're putting 25% of what you earn always put aside. As a precaution, what that would mean is that you're earning $300 and you try not to touch the other $100. In my example, maybe I would put 10% away because maybe I'm moving like I did 2 days ago from Houston to Dallas. So I would put another 10% away toward moving expenses, and suddenly that's about $50. No, excuse me. That's about $37.50 that's put away toward moving. That could be toward anything, really. Ultimately, you want to have 3 different savings accounts as you work your way up. At minimum, one for taxes, usually 25 to 33% of any of your income, especially if they are 1099 or independent contractor related income. One for emergencies or reserve, because you never know what's going to happen, whether it's medical or you have a financial crisis or you are trying to help out a family member for whatever reason, or maybe your child is going through some sort of a trip and they need funds. So there's that emergency reserve. Usually, the reserve fund could be probably 3 times the amount of whatever expenses you have to put away. That's usually a safeguard insurance policy to have on hand for reserves. So about 3% or 3 times the amount of what you would normally have to put toward expenses, usually fixed expenses. And then one for off-season slowdowns or the famine cycle, usually about whatever amount you need per rent, per utilities, per the fixed expenses. I would just have for the amount of your famine cycle. So typically it's about 3 months for me as just a precaution. You want to choose one method as you are using your money tracking. So whether it be an app, a journal, or a spreadsheet, there are a slew of different apps that are out there. I use QuickBooks. There's also I Need a Budget is a great app to really cycle out what I can put aside for anything. The other thing to think about is having weekly check-ins with yourself. You don't want to feel like you have a daily obsession over this, because it will drive you mad or have you lose your mind, as well as having categories that make sense to you. Again, whether it's savings, whether it's income tracking or expense tracking. So thinking about all of that, we just touched on that. So if we move forward, ending the feast or famine cycle, again, this is where you want to track every form of income stream, no matter how small. This could be weddings, this could be funerals, this could be orchestra gigs, this could be teaching, this could be passive income, like I mentioned earlier. This could be working for someone on the side that isn't even music related. You want to track all of your income to ensure that you are making sure you have something to justify what you're earning. Again, you want to project 1 to 3 months ahead, because again, you never know when your famine cycle is, especially if you're early into this, but equally so if you're 15 years in. You want to ensure that you don't get lost in the full year. Think bigger picture, not day by day or month to month. Pay yourself on a fixed schedule. So again, whenever you're receiving your income, making sure that you treat yourself like you might be a corporate employee. Do you get paid normally, if you were working for any corporation, bi-weekly, weekly, monthly? Treat yourself as an employee for your own business so that you're able to help budget yourself even better, especially on these famine cycles that do occur specifically for my cohort of individuals as an orchestral musician during the summer. Money tools for freelancers. So again, I mentioned earlier about different apps that exist. So the apps that I would recommend, You Need a Budget, Mint, Copilot, EveryDollar, QuickBooks. You Need a Budget is good for deep budgeting. Copilot if you're a visual budgeter Wave for easygoing invoice, as you can see down here, is an option. Wave, Stripe, or PayPal. I prefer PayPal just because it's more common. Stripe is great, especially if you want to do automation and have a credit card on file. Say you're a teacher, it's really helpful not to nag your families, and instead they can just have the card on file and you don't have to think twice. There is a percentage fee, however, that comes off. Banking, you want to separate your personal from your business accounts. I have an LLC, and that helps a lot in terms of delineating what is personal and what is business. I just refer to my business debit card or credit card that I plan to get even soon, as well as making sure that, again, you have your savings accounts for your personal versus your business growth that might come in your future. Automation, again, scheduled transfers, oopsies. You want to think about the scheduled transfers that occur for, let's go back to here. Scheduled transfers for your banking, whether it be for savings, again, having a certain percentage aside for taxes or for reserve funds or for any sort of emergencies that exist or any sort of other projects you have. Somebody in the last webinar mentioned maybe auditions are something that are out there, maybe moving, or maybe you're trying to get an appliance that you've needed money for, but you just don't have the time to put it aside. There are ways to make sure that you automate a percentage of your income toward that. And again, you want to think about the reoccurring savings rules as you work toward this. One thing that you can do is test this for your first week and share in the chat if you have any sort of observations from that. So another thing to think about is your 5-day freelancer finance reset. So this is really helpful for if you just need like a week to really see how this all works out. Give yourself the weekend to list out your income sources, track your last month's expenses, build your minimum monthly budget, opens a savings account if you really need it, and choosing a tool for tracking. And in my example, you'll notice that I am using different income sources like I did earlier. You'll see that there's private teaching, orchestral gigs, ed workshops or clinics, passive income streams, and that gives you your total income on a monthly basis. Last month expenses you can see are here, totaled it out to that. Building my monthly minimum budget, you'll see that there are core expenses, that fixed expenses that don't change, core variable expenses or flex expenses that do, of course. Giving myself that buffer based off of the total minimum monthly. Again, these are different numbers than what I used earlier, and these aren't my actuals either. So these are just things to consider. And as a result, there's your recommended goal budget for calculating your monthly minimums. And as a result, you can then assess, okay, how much do I need for my savings accounts that I want to open? So there's $5,000 for an emergency goal. Currently it's at $1,200, so I have about $3,800 to go. Tax accounts, I want to put 25 to 30% of my income away, so that's approximately $1,925 a month that I'll never want to touch, because again, come April 15, I want to make sure that I have enough money to pay my accountant, but equally so pay for my taxes, because you never know what you're going to be dealing with, as well as about $4,000 for off-season funds. Say that's about 2 months worth. Okay, great. And then just ultimately you want to have some sort of savings set aside for these kinds of purposes, because you never know what's going to happen. Choose a tracking tool. So say I want to use, you need a budget. My weekly review, I want to dedicate it to Sundays at 4 o'clock. Monthly review, I want to dedicate it to the first Friday of each month, because it's close enough to the end of the month from the previous month that I can safely say that I have a familiarity to what my expenses looked like. And then I'm able to categorize based off of my music life, what gigs looked like, what lessons looked like, how much I spent on repair or gear, travel, food, as well as my admin time. And so that would be a 5-day freelancer finance reset. Now, ultimately, you want to be your own boss, and you shouldn't feel like you have to be broke in order to be your own boss. So this would mean that being your own boss doesn't, again, mean living paycheck to paycheck. You don't need to be rich, and you just need to have a system in place. Money management is, in fact, a musician's skill because it's rhythm, awareness, and discipline. So again, you don't want to have to sacrifice your time. You want to feel like you have a system in place. You can freelance with freedom and financial security, and you deserve to build a life where you're not just surviving between gigs. Ultimately, what you want to do in your mind is repeat in your head, I don't need to be perfect. I just need a system that works for me. So there is a plethora of free resources available upon watching this. You are also welcome to email me at any point indicating that you had watched it, jlbastow.music@gmail.com, and I will put that in the caption as well. I'm going to go through this budget worksheet, which I have available here. So we're just going to do a little exercise. Say I made an income total of $8,000 this month with a minimum monthly budget of, let's say, $5,000. So this is, oh, pardon me, didn't mean to do that. Let's go to the income. That's what I meant to do. So say I made about $2,000 in private lessons, let's say $4,000 in gigs, workshop clinics, I'd say about 3,500, passive income, let's just say 1,000. These are all hypotheticals, just throwing out numbers. You'll notice that I have an income tab, a fixed expense tab, a flex tab, a budget summary, as well as a profit margin. So for the fixed expenses, say rent is $2,000, say insurance, that could be anything, that could be car, that could be homeowners, that could be health insurance. So I mean, it's any way you want to slice it. Say that's about $1,500. Phone is about $100. Car payment, we'll use the $680 that I used before. Subscriptions, let's just throw it out there and say that I have about $250 in subscriptions. Flex expenses, my groceries this past month, let's just put it out there and say it was $400. I traveled a lot for gigs, say $600. Eating out because I'm at gigs, and maybe this go around I didn't feel like preparing my own meals. Say that was about $175. Gear and repairs, say that I had an open seam on my instrument and I needed a bow rehair this week, and I also happened to need new strings. It really added up, $600. Miscellaneous, this could be anything. This could be car repair. This could be treating your partner to coming home for a day. This could be something for your pets. This could be whatever you want it to be, $550. So the budget summary based off of the formulas here, we have our fixed expenses total, we have our flex expenses total, therefore meeting our monthly minimum, which is a combination of the two expenses, plus that 15% buffer gives us our final monthly minimum target. Now let's just check what our profit margins were. Oh, I came out ahead, that's awesome. So again, this is the income total from the income tab. Monthly budget minimum based off of the budget summary tab that existed gives us our net profit of $26,1675. So this is available to anybody who watches and who wants it on their disposal and their tool set. Let me see if I have the ability to get back. I do. Okay, here we go. In addition, I will have a freelance money toolkit available, recommended banking and tax tools for freelancers, and equally so if you found that this was very informative and you're a freelancer or you are a music student that's curious about freelancing, you are welcome to book a free 30-minute strategy call whereby we have the opportunity to learn a little bit about one another. I get to hear your story. I get to understand what you're interested in as a freelancer, how I can help you along the way, so that you have the freedom and independence to do what you're meant to do as a freelance musician or just as a musician getting started in the music community. So if you're out there, ask yourself or even chat or put it in the video summary chat. What's your biggest money challenge right now? Drop your questions in the chat when you want to go live at any point. And you want personal help, again, I'm here to help you. You can schedule yourself for a strategy call. Thank you all for joining or from far from watching. Replay will be available to those who registered. Again, I encourage you to book a free 30-minute strategy call. I'm here for you. I've been where you are, where I had to start from 0 to 100, moved halfway across the country from Chicago, Illinois to Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the hope of making more than $8,000 a year when I started, and thankfully sextupled my salary in a year. Download the resources that are available once you email me, again, jlbasto.music@gmail.com. You are also welcome to join the Opus Connection Facebook group that I have available for those that are interested. And you can find my website. It's jarrettbasto.com, not the jlbasto.com. That would be jlbasto.music@gmail.com. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you have a great day.